Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the recording for week 6 of Contemporary World Issues, and you'll see that week 6 is the last two parts of Politics in the World, so it's section C and D. This recording will cover section C. So you can see that section C is going to talk about the European Union. So this recording will be section C, which will be your Monday and Tuesday work. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would be section D. That'll be a separate recording. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. And then we'll go right into section C. And section C is Democratic Socialism and the European Union. And before we jump into this work, of course, we're going to look at the Section C Class Connect write-up. And on page 1, how did Western European socialism differ from communism? So if we start looking at this, democratic socialism, that's a form of socialism that has some democratic or some democracy in it. So democracy, of course, is like government like the United States, where we have individual rights and freedoms. And then we have on the other end communism, which has very few rights. And then socialism is sort of in between. So socialism, democratic socialism, and communism, how did they differ? Well, if we look at this, well, first of all, democratic socialism came in after World War II, when all of Europe was in ruins, because that's where World War II happened. Mostly was in Europe, because the Nazis were trying to take over all of Europe, France, Great Britain, etc. So, when you look at this picture of the streets of Berlin, I mean, Europe was in shambles. So then they were trying to figure out what are they going to do to get their countries back, growing again and all of that, get their economies back. So they wanted to look at different forms of government. So what they tried to do, so socialism grew to be as this says, the predominant system of government. But unlike communism, what they developed was socialist economic system while maintaining democratic principles of individual rights and personal freedoms. So that's the difference between the communism and the democratic socialism. Just that statement right there. So you can see they wanted to have some socialist or even some communist leanings, a little bit about government control and things like that, but they wanted people to still have their rights. So in this unit, we're going to look at the principles of basic socialism and how they've applied to modern politics, concept of the welfare state, function and purpose of the European Union, compare and contrast socialism and the American form of democracy, and examine other forms of government in Western Europe, like constitutional monarchy. In the European Union, let's go back to the Class Connect write-up to see if we have any questions here. I watched the video and list 5 distinct aspects of the development of the European Union. So this talks about the European Union, so you watch this video, and the European Union is the group of countries in Europe that want to band together. And this video is going to share some of the things that the European Union is trying to do. So on that Class Connect write-up, as I said, you can watch this video and list 5 distinct aspects of the development of the European Union, meaning 5 distinct things that the European Union has done or wants to do. Number 4, what are the main beliefs that most socialists share about capitalism? So you watch that video to get the answer to question number 2. And page 4, so the rise of socialism. So, again, socialism, the growth of it started in the 1850s when the laboring classes, they began to organize and realize they had strength in numbers and things like that. And we already learned about Karl Marx. He studied socialism, but then wanted to look into communism as a much better, even stronger than socialism. So that's the background that you've gotten about all of this. And socialism is an economic organization where the state or the country, they have ownership and administration of all production and distribution of goods and things like that. So the government essentially owns how things are distributed to society. And also socialists, they believe in taking care of people in a strong way: free medical, free dental, free education, all of that free health care. So then, of course, in socialist economies, the taxes are really high. But really, socialists and communists, they do believe and they do agree on certain things. And socialists and communists and they believe that capitalism unfairly concentrates power and wealth among a small segment of society, that controls the capital, creates unequal society, does not provide equal opportunities for everyone. So most socialists believe this about capitalism. So that's going to be the answer to that Class Connect write-up question number 3. That's what most socialists believe about capitalism. But of course, we know in capitalism, while there are many people that are richer than other people, at least in capitalism, everybody has a fair chance. They can strive for whatever they want to and get as rich as they want. None of us are being stopped because of our government or our economic system. While in socialism and capitalism, or communism and socialism, you have certain levels you can reach and then you can't go beyond that. Okay, back to the Class Connect write-up. So we talked about that. This at least 3 of the socialistic reforms the United Kingdom put into place after World War II. So let's look at after World War II, the United Kingdom, of course, which is, it's also called Great Britain, but England and Ireland and those countries, they were decimated by World War II. It really struck them hard with all the bombing and things like that. So they had to put in some changes to really get things going. So following World War II, right here, following World War II, the United Kingdom nationalized the major public utilities such as the mines, gas, coal, electric, rail, iron, and steel. They also provided free health care to everyone. So that's what the United Kingdom put into place. So the government took over all the major utilities and everything, and they put national health care in. Also, some other things here on education. They provided housing for people, provided European university education to everyone, and they even offered free milk nationwide. So that's what they did, and that was really their movement towards more of a socialistic economy. And a government. And some of the things they wanted to do, they wanted to make things more fair for everyone, and they created what was called a welfare state to make it balanced for everyone. But your main answer for following World War II is right up here. So we answered that one. So it lists at least 3 of those reforms. What was a major drawback to the economic restrictions of a socialist system? Okay, page 6, this talks about the welfare state. And while we don't have a question about it, what the welfare state does is the welfare state, they try to do what a country tries to do for the welfare state, as you can see right here, is that they assume responsibility for healthcare, education, employment, and social security of all the citizens. And what they try to do is to make it so nobody falls below a certain line. So if you see right down here, so the state, meaning the country, assumes responsibility for welfare of its citizens. Well, in the United States, we individually assume our own welfare, don't we? Government ensures minimum standard of living. Well, in the United States, we try to do that, but it's really hard. We have food stamps and other programs like that. So we try to help everybody with a minimum standard of living. Volunteer groups and organizations in the country try to help out. All these services right here, the government provides all these services for people in a welfare state. But then the government taxes, extremely high taxes. Look at that, 75%. So that could mean at every $100 you make, the government gets 75 of it to help support everyone. Does that seem fair? Well, you have to think about that for yourself. And then you can look down here and it talks about the United States and all these services and things like that. The responsibility of individual citizens and are offered by corporations or organizations. Okay, moving on. Socialism and individual rights. So let's go back to the Class Connect write-up, because I think there was a question about that. Major drawback to economic restrictions of the socialist system. So if you talk about the socialist system, this is where industries have been nationalized, public spending is going higher, which means that if public spending is going higher, then your taxes are going higher. All of these things are starting to happen in these socialist states, in these countries that are turning socialist. And the basics of the socialist state is put the responsibility of all the social welfare in the government's hands. So the government controls economic features, including public services, public works, and things like that. And the government controls the large industry and agricultural markets. So the government can decide what gets created and what gets grown. Heck, in the United States, our farmers and our industrial people, they decide what gets grown and what gets built and what gets made. And they make things in the United States and grow things in the United States because of what we want. So that's one of the things that you really need to think about in a democratic and a capitalist economy as opposed to a socialist. Now let me go back to that Class Connect write-up question, and so we can find that answer. It says, well, what is the major drawback to economic restrictions of a socialist system? Let's see. Major drawback. Yeah, the major drawback. So if you look right here, well, socialism is not as stifling as communism, meaning it's not as confining as communism. Still, in socialism, there is control of the people and restrictions of individual freedoms. But the biggest thing in socialism is right here. It is nearly impossible for individuals in a socialist market to achieve high levels of success and wealth. Well, that's different than in the United States. In a capitalist, you have people who can, like Bill Gates, who can, strive to be the richest man in the world if he wants to. Isn't that a great freedom? But in socialist countries, you cannot strive for that because you have barriers to how much money you can make. So that's the answer to that Class Connect write-up. That's one of the major drawbacks to a socialist system, is that you can't strive to be your best. Okay, Class Connect write-up. Okay, page 9, socialist democracy or capitalism. And you're going to answer this question as you prepare for life outside of high school, whether it be a job or college. Which system would you prefer to be a part of right now? Socialist democracy or capitalism? And that's on page 9 where it talks about that stuff. So if we go to page 9, you see it starts to talk about what's consumerism, which is meaning you as a consumer and the challenges you have both in a capitalist society or a socialist social democracy. So you can see this talks about it, how as consumers in the United States and our government, we have so many different things we can shop for and places to buy things. In socialist and communist governments, they have very little choice. So what you're going to do is to explore this a little bit. You may have to do a little bit of outside research, and you're going to answer this question right here in that Class Connect write-up question. Which would you rather be under? Would you rather be under the socialist democracy, like they have in Europe and other places, or do you want to be in capitalism like the United States? Okay, so that was this one. Now on page 10, explain how power is generally divided in a constitutional monarchy. So now we're talking about constitutional monarchies, and we've explored these before. I think the last unit talked about it. But constitutional monarchies have been around for years, and certainly monarchies have, where kings and czars controlled everything. But then ultimately, the constitutional monarchy is where there was a little bit of some voting going on, and people had rights to choose their leaders and things like that. So constitutional monarchy was developed. And there were countries where they had kings and such, like France, Britain, and lots of Europe. Instead of just getting rid of the kings and bringing in, a parliament with a president type of a person and things like that, then they kept the monarchy in place, but it had a little less power. So what you can see, let's go back to that Class Connect write-up question to remember what that was. It's to explain how power is divided in a constitutional monarchy. So constitutional monarchy, they have the power, they have the legislature and the judiciary power, but really the way that the constitutional monarchy works out is that many of them have a prime minister who has a day-to-day power, while the monarch retains minor or even no powers. The monarch might even be just a figurehead. Like in England, the Queen of England, she has no power in government whatsoever. So the way that this happens is that most of these countries with constitutional monarchy have a prime minister who has the day-to-day power of governance, and then the monarch has either no power or just minor power and is more of a figurehead. So you can see down here it talks about that. Like the royal family in Great Britain, the Queen of England and such, ceremonial visits, helps with charities and things like that, but as a figurehead, but it has no real political power or governing power. Okay, page 11. Okay, we did that. Okay, page 12. Why is the European Union created and what does it do? So here's a little video about the royal family and what they do. Might be interesting to watch that. There's no answers you need to do for it, but just watch it. Well, it's 9 minutes. That's not too bad. Watch it just to see what these people do. Wouldn't you like to have that kind of a lifestyle? Page 12. European Union. Well, the European Union, it was established to develop a common market and trade union between its member states. Now, if you think about it, and you need to look at a map for Europe, here's the United States over here. This is a little bit different than the map that you normally view, but here's the United States, and here's Europe. So here's Spain and Portugal right here, France and Germany. There's the boot for Italy. Up here is Norway, Sweden, Denmark. Here's Great Britain. Out here, some other European countries like Hungary, Germany, France. France is right in here. So you can Greece is down in here. So you can see the different countries that are part of what's called the European Union. And the European Union was established to develop a common market and trade union for its member states. They wanted to have free circulation of goods and capital and people and services, so they wanted to be much more powerful, more of an economic power. So if we go back to the Class Connect write-up, why was the European Union created and what does it do? Well, that's what we just talked about. So it was created to develop common market and trade union between its member states. And what does it do? It provides free circulation of goods, capital, people, things like that. These couple of sentences right here can help you with that. And you can imagine this, the United States being so powerful and so big, a number of people and all that, and then China being so strong and powerful economically, Japan powerful and strong, Russia powerful and strong. Well, in Europe, those countries are really small, both in size and in populations, except Germany has a large population. But they decided, hey, if we're going to compete on a global scale economically, we need to kind of partner up and see what we can do. So that's what the European Union is trying to do. So they set up a bunch of treaties and set up some cooperative agreements. So let's go back to the Class Connect write-up and see what our next question is. How does the EU plan to utilize culture? Well, this is an interesting one because obviously all of Europe is different cultures. So, the European Union has 27 member countries, 500 million people, and it's extremely diverse. So they're 500 million. In the United States, we have 300 million. They have over 500 million. So people-wise, it's much larger than the United States, isn't it? Size-wise, it's not quite. So they have different religions, different languages, different traditions, all of that. But they want to create a kind of a common culture that promotes diversity and intercultural dialogue. And what they're going to use that culture to do, they want that culture to transform Europe into the most competitive knowledge-based society in the world. So that's what they want the culture to do. They want the culture of Europe the culture of the European Union to transform Europe into the most competitive knowledge-based society in the world. That's their goal of how they're going to use culture. And some of the ideas the European Union has to transform itself, let's look at some of the ideas. So some of the ideas that they have is the development of medical cooperatives. So you can see that development of medical cooperatives, university partnerships, a space program. I mean, in the United States, we've been going to the moon and to outer space for nearly 50 years now. No country in Europe has even set foot on any planet or a moon or even gone up to the space station. They want to have cooperative sports events, unified aid for the impoverished, meaning unified aid for the poor. So this is what are some of the things that they hope to do, and the way that they'll solve some of their problems. And they even have their own flag and an anthem, like a national anthem, a union anthem. Okay, moving on to page 13, the crossword puzzle activity, so you can do that. Page 14, now it's talking about the euro, which is a common money, common single currency. So 12 of the states have adopted the euro. They've had some troubles with it though, but you can, there's a little worksheet, you can go explore a little bit about the euro and find out what some of the issues are with that. A video on North American Union. Do you think that there could be a North American Union? And you think about it, that could be Canada, United States, and Mexico. What if we all came together as a union? I mean, we'd have a huge population. The United States at 300 million. Mexico has probably about 250 or close to 300 million people. Canada has huge resources. Imagine if we were a union with no borders. So watch that video, learn a little bit about that. The homework quizzes you don't do, so don't worry about that. And finally on page 17, you have the Socialism and European Union quiz. And as always, I provide the quiz previews right here. I actually don't have that quiz don't have the quiz preview in there for you yet, so I'll get that quiz put in there. Okay, so that's all you have for this section C, and of course section D recording will be different. So thanks for listening. Look forward to seeing your Class Connect write-up come in. Bye.